Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Humanitarians of Africa series, where we have been sharing the amazing stories of founders from all across Africa. Here on this series, we have had founders from Ghana, from Cameroon, from Kenya, from name it, anywhere in Africa, even Nigeria too. And today, all the way from Nigeria, we have another founder who has different expressions, but yes, she is a gender advocate and running an amazing organization in Nigeria, and she's here to share her story with us today. Ruhamah, thank you so much for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this session. I am very excited to actually share from my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. So, who are you? What do you do? What are your different expressions? Where are you from? I know that some people listening right now know you quite well, but some other people from different parts of Africa do not know anything about you. So please, do you mind introducing yourself and feel free to blow your trumpet?
I'll try my best, right?
Okay.
So, when you were introducing me earlier on, you said I had multiple expressions, and I was very pleased to hear that because it's not something that many people like to hear that you have multiple expressions. So, I know in our world these days they want you to have a niche, which is also good, right? Having a niche for yourself and being in one particular space. But then I know and I understand my own identity. I understand my own makeup, and I know that I can do a lot of things. I can advocate for a lot of things. I know how my journey started, and I cannot just begin to now restrict myself, if I'll use that word,
Yeah.
just because I'm trying to fit in what people call a standard or whatever it is they call it.
Yeah.
So, introducing myself, my name is Ruhamah Ifere, as I have been introduced. I work in the intersection of policy advocacy and social works. I have a background in law. I am the founder of Volunteers Connect, an initiative that bridges the gap between organizations and volunteers. And I am the founder of the Youth Evolve. It's an NGO that focuses on advocating for the active inclusion of young people in peace building processes and, of course, in governance processes. So these I've been doing since 2019 when I founded both initiatives. And I would say to the glory of God, we've been able to impact lives over 5,000 young people, both male and female, through the projects that we curate. Understand, through the project that we create through partnerships and collaboration, which is very important because you cannot do it alone, right? Mm-hmm. So you need more hands, you need the right team, you need the right people keen into your vision. And I'm also the author of 21 answers to the volunteers' questions. I have an opportunity to speak at various events, both nationally and internationally. And I have also received several awards, like the Young African Leaders Initiative Award, Peace Galaxy, Top 25 Young Women in Peace Building, the top 100 young people by Africa by Opportunities Hub, and several other awards that I have received. So thank you very much.
Okay, so I think at this point we need to give you a clapping ovation, and I wish I could stand right now and give you a standing ovation in addition to my clap. But people, if you're listening to this, please give it up for this amazing woman who has combined so many expressions and is doing amazingly well in her field. Thank you so much for a robust introduction. I love that. I love that. So you are a gender advocate, and that is what actually attracted me to the work that you do. You selflessly talk about this thing. You selflessly advocate for gender inclusion, gender equality, and all of that. So share with us, what was the passion for that? What exactly incited that passion to focus on gender or even to become a gender advocate? You know, a lot of people say, because we are women, it's natural for us to be gender advocates. But everyone has a different story. So what exactly is that story that launched you out in gender advocacy?
No, you're actually right. There's always a story behind every action that one take. And it's also important that whosoever it is that taking that action try to tell their story. Otherwise, people begin to tell your story wrongly.
For you.
For me, yeah, exactly. For you, it's been a journey for me because in 2017, when I started out volunteering, I started out with that idea of wanting to contribute my own quota to the society, having understood that the SDGs was propounded like 2 years ago, which was 2015,
Yeah.
and had 17 goals. One of the goals was SDG 5, gender equality, and then looking at the target indicators and all of those things, I could see myself playing some particular role in it. And so I started to align myself with some organizations that were doing it already with regards to advocating for the rights of the girl child. So, and for the right of the girl child and women. One of that organization is Royal Gen Initiative. Their focus was on pregnant young teenagers. Because when you get when somebody gets pregnant, or a young teenager gets pregnant, it's the end of the world for that person. So no more education, no more trying to empower yourself, it's just the end. And we're trying to, change the narrative that there's actually more that can still happen to that person with the right support and all of those things. And so moving on from that particular organization, I have volunteered with other organizations like the Autism Awareness Foundation and YALI, Young African Leaders Initiative. So in YALI is a network of young people created by Barack Obama Foundation. And so we always come up with projects, right, to commemorate the International Women's Day, to contribute our own quotas as young people. And I was very, very particular about the projects that we come up with relating to advocacy for the rights of women and girl child, because statistics is clear. The women and the girl child are the ones facing a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So for instance now, crisis that is going on, the earthquake that is going on in Syria, is women and girls and the girl child, or rather women and children that will actually be in front of all of these things. When you talk of climate change, at the end, at the bottom of the pyramid, you see women and girls. There are many things that you can mention, and you see that you cannot just remove the fact that they are the ones that eventually, go through all of these things. And so in 2020, I would say 2020 was the apex for me, because 2020 a lot happened. There was COVID-19, there was NSAT. People were uncertain as to where the world was going, if truly we're going to enter 2021 or it's going to end in 2020. And then in the midst of all of these things, as schools were shutting down and people were coming back home to understand their lives, some other people were taking advantage of that to, molest women and girls, harass men. We saw the rape of Uwa. The rape of Uwa for me was the breaking point. So I don't know for other people, but for me, I don't know that girl from anywhere, but I cried. Because why with someone who came back from school trying to prepare herself for whenever school resumes? Because from the news that we got, she was always going to the church, to study, prepare herself, and somebody just took advantage of her. And it just ended. So now rape and killing. There was a lot that needed to be done. There was a need, that urgent need to protect the women, protect the young girls from this kind of issues that they face, sexual harassment and the rest. And so, of course, through my initiative, the Youth Evolve, I was able to, organize Twitter sessions. I was able to organize some peace building engagements, and of course, enlist the help of men also, to letting them know why we are doing this. Because most times we get those questions that, like you said, they think because we're women and so we're definitely trying to protect ourselves. But it's more than that. There's need for every stakeholder to be involved, because we also know that there's good breed of men, and there's, of course, there's a bad breed of men. And so our focus is on the bad breed of men, not all men, kind of, right? And in 2022, I got selected as a Speak Up Standard activist. It's a program by the NGU SDGs, and it was fully funded by Voice Global, an international organization. So I created a project and I named it #Rethinking Gender Violence. So the idea was for everybody to rethink gender violence by inciting behavioral and attitudinal changes in the minds of people. So through peace building skills, through understanding, because when you don't understand that even women have rights, some people, when you begin to go through this journey, you understand that there's a lot of, like, the issue is deep, like the issue is deep. Like, some people don't get it. Why should women and girls have rights? What are you saying exactly? I mean, that the weaker vessels, but I'm the man, she doesn't have any rights. No, I'm serious. Because last year, last year in 2020, yeah, 2022, during the International Women's Day, we did hold a peace walk, an advocacy peace walk for gender equality in the marketplaces. And my God, the things that we heard from the male traders, I had goosebumps. I had goosebumps, and I'm like, this is just an iota of what some people actually think of women and girls. So there's an issue, and I don't think anybody should keep quiet, both the male and the female. All hands need to be on deck because there are issues. It does exist, it has been existing. Just now that social media is now
Bringing
bringing
it
it to
out.
bear because we're trying to ignore it, but it's here. It lives with us. If it doesn't exist, if it's not a serious issue, there won't be laws.
Yeah.
We have different laws, right? The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. We have the Criminal Code. We have the Sexual Offense. If it was not an issue, if it was not so serious, I don't think all of these things will exist. All these agencies, even by the government, will exist. It's not just stop there now. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. What struck me most was the UWA case. And I remember it very well because I wrote my master's thesis on that particular case study. And as a gender advocate myself, with my thesis on the rape culture in Nigeria, I had a hard time writing. I had a hard time interviewing people because some of the stories that you hear from even people that were close to me that I interviewed, I was shocked that these things are happening. And in the course of researching, I was seeing crazy laws that should not exist, crazy laws that are not even, they're not reasonable, and these things they're really happening, especially in Nigeria. And I can totally understand your point and having to try to create awareness for people to know about these things and become more conversant with this, because it's when we're conversant with it, we're able to be intentional and make a change. So well done on the work that you do. Well done on the work that
Thank you very much.
So, talking about Youth Evolve, or youth, is it Youth Evolve or Youth Involve?
Youth Evolve, like
Okay,
you're
great.
evolving.
Okay, I wanted to get the correct one. So, Youth Evolve, tell us about your nonprofit and the impact you have made so far. So, I know that having to go into the gender work was out of passion and everything. Is it the same passion that led you into wanting to help youth get involved in activities that have to do with us as young people? So what's the passion or the impact that you have made with your organization so far, and what's the organization about?
Okay, yes. So here's another story again.
That's why we're
So
here.
for the Youth Evolve, right? Yes, for the Youth Evolve. So when I get asked this question, I'm always quick to remind people that are asking me this or that I'm also a young person, right?
Yeah.
So even though I'm advocating for the rights of young people, I'm not, we're all included. I'm not
Yes.
there, right? Well, we are not that. So I'm not excluding myself from young people. But actually, the idea of the Youth Evolve came up in 2019 after the general elections. You see, it's actually how I put it, that it's striking that we're also having this kind of discussion few days
at this time.
Yes, because after the 2019 general elections, I served as an election observer with the Center for Democracy and Development. And it was manifestly clear that young people were not represented. So we're not represented both at the polls, that is those coming to vote, and then we're not represented those behind the vote, like those that were even going to vote. Okay, there's a young person that were voting. It wasn't there. And that was really worrisome to me because before that particular election, the Not Too Young to Run Act had already been assented to. So I was wondering what was stopping young people from being involved in this political process. And of course, is in doing some things that some more things become clear. Because even me back then, what I was thinking of was how can young people really come out to contest and all of those things. And so we started out this Youth Evolve. I started out with a friend, Ifeoluwa Emmanuel. And as we started calling those young people that managed to contest for elections. So not the ones that we know, the presidential, the senatorial, other types of election like the local councillors and all. So one of them was Akan Imo. And from the conversations we had with him, not just myself, but other young people, it was clear that there was a lot involved in being young to run. So it was more than just being young to run. Most times, even young people don't even believe that okay, there's actually space for them to contribute their own quota. That's why it's called political processes. So you may not run, but you may your votes can actually count. Your support, the way you galvanize other people, you mobilize other people, right? To know that okay, this is the right candidate to vote. This is how you can assess your candidate, to know if he's the right person, meets the criteria. You want good governance. This is what good governance should be. All of those things are political processes, not just necessarily coming out to contest for presidential or senatorial posts, which is what we're always concerned about. But your local councillors, a chairman, do you know them? If you don't know them, you don't know anything that's happening. And you want good governance to happen. How? It is premised on both accountability, transparency. And that is when you understand your rights. That is when you understand what should be and what should not be. And so with all of these things, we started out, enlightening people through our different webinars, like I said, calling some youth candidates that actually contested. Some of them didn't win, but they were willing to share from their experiences, because it's not just about winning, it's also about the lessons that you've gotten and the challenges that they face. And so even coming back now to 2023, we've organized a lot of series. So from enlightening you on the manifestos of different presidential candidates, you can find that on our Youth Evolve page. We've broken it down because some people will like, it's on 6 pages. When we are ready, it's 100 pages. Where we're like, oh, don't worry, we've taken out the time. We've broken it down for you. You just go and look at it and see, just in reality, like when I reflect, does this thing speak to me as a young person? Do I think there's something that I need to draw the attention of those that are contesting and all of that? So manifestos, we had series, we invited different speakers about even your voting rights. So some people actually registered for their PVCs. They thought it just ended at just registering. You have to go collect your PVCs because it's not INEC property. So with encouragement like that, people were now coming out and understanding that it's true. Not just registering. I need to have that thing in my hand. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation going around, right? So those things, so you need to keep reorientating the public and encouraging people not to share fake news and all of those things. You need to learn the habit of stopping, reflecting, and verifying. In fact, to this end, Youth Evolve, we actually created a solution around misinformation and disinformation. That's how passionate we are, so that young people can be involved in curbing this menace of misinformation and disinformation. Because this information propaganda, if it's not tackled immediately, it has led to violence and can still lead to more violence if care is not taken. So there are some words that one needs to be careful about. That sometimes when you don't need to just share, then you see some posts in the WhatsApp group and you see share widely. Share widely, and you're just sharing widely. You're not about to say, why am I sharing widely? How do I even feel after reading this? Does this still make sense? Because when you finally even do your research, even something like Google search can even help you let you know that this picture is coming from back then in the day. This thing does not even relate to right now. But people just bring it. Those things are peace building processes. Those things are governance processes. We recently participated in a hackathon by Post for Africa. That was last 2 weeks Saturday, and we came second place with our solution. So we're on the verge of using it because it's not just about this election, it's also about post-election. And so that's how Youth Evolve. I've actually evolved, peace building processes, governance processes, and our gender equality advocacy works, which we call the Sexual Offense Watch Observer Project.
Wonderful, wonderful. So talking about the gender advocacy work that you do with Youth Evolve, you mentioned earlier in your first response your experience with going to the market and having to have one-on-one contact with men and to see their reaction to some of these gender issues and the way it is when it comes to gender. So can you give us a brief insight based on your experience working with people in the gender advocacy unit? What's the situation of gender-based violence and gender equality in Nigeria at the moment? What's the situation like? And How exactly is your nonprofit contributing to solving this problem?
So, gender violence is actually a very wide area of topic.
Yeah.
So, we have different forms of gender violence. There's the economic gender violence. There's the sexual health rights, the gender-based violence, and mental violence and all of those things.
Yeah.
But our focus is actually on sexual reproductive health rights.
Okay.
You understand? And that's relating to rape,
Mm-hmm.
child marriage, sexual abuse, and all of those things. And as I mentioned earlier, that was last year. We had this advocacy piece for, and it was to just create a sensitization of women's rights and the the way it occurs, right? The way it occurs, and even the penalties for it, and why we should protect men and the girl child. And this we did in the marketplace that was specifically Ujolegba to Yaba market environment. And the truth is that the situation, I will not say it keeps worsening and worsening. This is how I want to put it. So let's come back from 2020. In 2020, you could see that there was a decline in the achievements that not just my own organization, but other advocates like yourself and every other person had done because of the rate and at which those violence was occurring. But at that time, I was beginning to ask myself questions that are we not doing enough? Are we not speaking to the right people? Are we not saying the right thing? Are we not communicating? Because for this thing to be increasing like this, it means there's a problem, right? And we need to identify these issues. And so everybody was really worried about it. And yet again, that was why we came up with that idea of sensitizing the public and all of those things. So from the interactions that we've had with people, both male, female, even some survivors, you could see that some of them don't even know their rights. It begins with understanding your rights, even as a woman or as a girl child. What rights do you have? What has the constitution, which is the apex court of, I said the apex court, the grand norm of Nigeria, what has the constitution, which is the grand norm of Nigeria, actually provided for you as a human being, as a citizen of Nigeria? What does the other law say about anybody that, like the criminal code, anybody that sexually assaults a woman? How many years imprisonment? What does sexual assault mean? What does rape mean? Because even when you ask those people that perpetrate this violence against women and girls, you see them saying that, oh, they didn't know that this thing can be the violence. Do you understand? And like genuinely say that that they don't have an idea that what they've done has caused, a mental trauma to a particular person.
Yeah.
The fact that you grew up a lady without her consent, which is the right word, that consent, which is missing, is what they don't understand. Some people in a relationship, they're like, I don't understand, she's my girlfriend. So why am I still asking for consent? Those things they don't know. But when you begin to break it down and let them know that this is why you must get consent, because she's a human being, not an animal. She has a right. At that moment, she may not even be feeling it. So you need to ask questions like, is this person ready for such a thing? And all of those things. And you need to also get that consent very like verbally, not that you are assuming because she's your girlfriend and all of this.
Yeah.
Then they begin to see the light. They begin to now even turn a new leaf. That's how you incite behavioral and attitudinal changes. That's how you communicate to these people. Because you're just coming and you're just saying women's rights and human rights, women's rights and human rights. They're looking at you and they're wondering why you fight, who's pursuing you. These are the kind of questions. But you need to break it down. So even in the marketplace, when we're hearing that women's rights, women don't get rights. That's what they tell you clearly. That I know women know from where I come from. That's how they start. Where I come from, women don't have rights. So you see how it can even be traced back to the home. How does a particular man, a father, treat his wife, or treat his daughter? So you see things like shut up woman. Who told you to speak when I'm speaking? Automatically, it's imbibed in the male child or whosoever, or even in the female child. She feels that okay, this is
that's how it's supposed
to be. How it's supposed to be. So if a man is shouting at her, you're telling her, no, this is wrong. She's like, I see my father do this a lot of times. It's just there's nothing. It's just for him to say I should shut up and I'm shut up. And I'm wondering, wow. So you can see how all of these factors come in play, the environmental factors, the home factors, the society itself has also encouraged gender violence one way or another. I've seen scenarios where somebody groped a woman, like touching a woman wrongly in a bus. Then she began to complain. And the people in the bus were telling her, what woman you be? She mean you fine. But both women and men, like, that should know better in a bus. Of course, you can imagine how that person will feel, because you wonder, wow, okay, I know my rights at this moment, but at this moment, I don't think it can be protected here in this bus and promoted, so I need to keep quiet, which is why agencies like ours encourage people, even other agencies that I can think of, like Mirabel Centers, Cheshire Foundation, the DSR, the Domestic Sexual Violence. So I'm speaking for those in Lagos, right? They encourage people to, call hotlines, report when something has happened to you, so that they can follow up, they can take up actions for you. There are pro bono services where you don't have to pay, so long as it relates to this kind of abuse of your rights as a woman and all of those things. But many women don't know that it exists. I can tell you for free, even in this Lagos state that is supposedly woke, many people don't know. So when I put myself, for instance, as someone that is churning out this kind of information on my WhatsApp status, on social media and all of those things, I've gotten a lot of inquiries, a lot of feedback, not just like, oh, you're saying the truth or whatsoever, but something like, okay, this thing just happened in my street. How do I contact this person, this organization, so that they can help us do something like this, something like this? Even as someone with a background in law, let them know that there's something like evidence. So if something happens to someone, there are some evidences that needs to be taken, because it's not just word of mouth, right? So the court asks what to present to it. So it's not just saying, this person did this to me, this person did this to that. When there are medical tests to confirm all of those things, definitely you'll be getting the justice that you deserve, right? So all of these things is just constant awareness around this peace building, and awareness around peace building activities of young people, how they can help to curb this, awareness around the rights of women and girls, awareness about sexual abuses. Last year we also went to a particular community, Oworo Ferry community here in Lagos State, and the chairman of that place and secretary, they really, really welcomed us. And you say, why? They welcomed us because that incident had been happening on a daily basis in their community. So they don't know what to do. At that point, that they had gotten tired. So they said they report to the police. So this is one of the things that happened. So if they report to the police, maybe at the end, the perpetrator comes back to the community, because probably they've been bribed or something, or maybe the police don't know how to handle it. They don't know. Secondly, even the girls that are being molested or abused are the ones that will not be running themselves to the perpetrator, for him or her to continue the abuse. So it's a deep issue. We have to conduct that kind of sensitization in that community. And they were very more than happy, because the girls could finally understand that really this was their rights, and that there are organizations that exist. They were happy to get those phone numbers. Even my number, they do calls, just to let me know what's going on in that community. So I would say we've done enough. We've done enough. We can still do more, right? We can still do more as an organization, as Youth Evolve and other organizations. So in advocating for the rights of women and girls.
Wonderful. You're doing so much work having to create sensitization in local communities, because the locals are the ones who need it the most. People don't pay attention to people who have no access to internet, media, when they would normally get this kind of information. But when you go down to the grassroots, you're able to educate them one-on-one, and that is really, really, really helpful. Well done. Okay, so my next question for you would be your experiences. I think now let's go to I won't say bad, but let's look at the experiences you have faced as a gender activist. So I don't know if you have experience, but I'm sure you definitely have. People are quick to judge women who are selfless about gender issues, and women who come out outrightly to say, I'm a gender advocate, I'm advocating for the rights of women and all of that. So have you experienced anything, severe bad experiences, maybe calling of names and all of that when it comes to being passionate or being vocal about your advocacy?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Last year was actually where I first delved into this just on gender equality and promotion. And I did receive a lot of backlashes, even from friends, because first of all, they were wondering, what's going on? Have you been abused before? Did anything happen to you? Oh well. That's no, I'm serious. That's the question they asked, that are you trying to lash out at the society? Probably something happened. And I'm like, nothing needs to happen to you. That right? Before you begin to take actions. Because if you wait for it to happen to you, it might be too late.
Yes.
It just might be too late. So if you have identified a problem, you've seen a problem, and the solution is within your hands, what stops you from actually, carrying out that action to supplement the efforts of other people? So for the past 12 months, I received those kind of questions. And then, you get some questions like, okay, so what about the male child? So why are you focusing on only the men child? So yeah, we are saying gender. So gender is both male and female. And I'm letting them know that we are not saying that the male child also doesn't get abused sexually, but we are saying that from statistics, it shows that women and girl child are on the rise. So the same way I'm taking actions for the women, you also
take action for the men.
Take action. You understand? For the men, it's not hard. This life it can be very easy. And then we all work together and we promote gender equity. It's not hard, right? And at some point, urgent need to introduce men as allies, men and boy child, because even though we are, like now, for instance, we're advocating for the rights of women and girl child, our works are still centering around the women and the girl child. Everything we're doing is still around the women and the girl child. Then what about the men? So there are some that are not right, and I'm sure some of them are doing it out of curiosity. They just want to know why we are doing all of these things. So we actually did collaborate with a particular organization called Life After Abuse Foundation. So at Life After Abuse Foundation, yes, Halima, like she's a friend of mine, and I really like what she does because, for starters, I know she has gone through a lot, and someone that has gone through such circumstances before women, like I like to think about it, but she actually crossed that particular path, that particular Rubicon, and advocated for the male child, knowing that sometimes there are a lot of things involved, such as the mental health of that particular person, the environment, and all of those things. So we did come up with a program. We went, we held it in last week, and then of course it was strictly for the males, and then we educated them and all of those things. And from the feedback, we could see that they were getting the point now about why they need to do better as as males, because this is not just about women and girls. This is not just about their girlfriends. It will also be their sister, also be their mother. Who knows? Then when they're armed with this kind of information, they can also educate their own friends, their own guys, as they call it, and don't keep any bro code of any kind. When you know that this is your bro doing something wrong to a particular girl, speak out for that. That's basically what the Speak Out Stand Out program was about. You speak out, like when you see something, say something, or you direct the person to the right places, to the right agencies, and all of those things. And so those were the feedbacks we got. Why are male not included, and why is it just male child? Were you abused? And some people were of the idea that probably because we've gotten some funding, and gender equality is like the wave of the moment. So I'll put it that way. So we're doing stuff like that. But I have to this kind of things. You will not just be aggressive. You won't fight them.
You have to help them understand.
I'm always very happy. Yeah, help them understand. Because for me, you are also part of my beneficiaries. You're part of my work. The fact that you came to me to ask me this question, it means I have a lot to do. So all I need to do is to educate you, reorientate you, and eventually, but you see them telling me, you know what, when is your next program? Let me know. I want to be there. let me know. So with our hashtag with Speaking Gender Violence project, we're able to reach over 3,000 young persons.
Wonderful.
Not just as beneficiaries, as young people, like an army, buying into the idea. And many people, even this year, are still asking, oh, when are you going to begin another new phase of the project and all? And we are going to do that. So we let them know that, okay, we're going to do that. We've seen the impact this has created. We also need to sit back, reflect, and see how we can make it more better.
Wonderful, wonderful. I can understand when you say they ask, what about the men? I get that question a lot. I work with the International Women's Center of my school, and they always ask me, what are you doing for the men? I'm like, what are you doing for the men? Have you thought about doing something to help the men, your own kind? So if people are focusing on the women, focus on the men, because they also need help too.
Exactly.
So I can relate. I can relate. And it's good that we take our time to help people understand, because it's in understanding that they get to come into the light and see that there is a reason for what we do and not just for the cloud chasing part of it. So yeah.
Exactly.
Moving on to your passions. How are you able to marry all your passions together and manage them effectively? I think some people will need this particular tip from you today. How are you able to manage all your passions effectively?
I get that a lot. So first of all, let me do the usual. I won't say cliche, but the usual. It's God, though. It's God. It's God that is faithful. But yes, indeed, God has been faithful, right? But then I've also sat down because I've received these questions a lot. I've received this question a lot, and it's not just God has been faithful. God has also shown me the steps to actually marrying all of these things, like you said, together. And one of them is time management, right? So one of them is time management for me. Prioritizing what needs to be done at every given moment, not doing everything at once. So most of the things I've identified or I've discussed earlier, some of them were at a particular time. It could be like a 3-month project, it could be like a 4-month project, it could be like a 1-year project, right? But then you are prioritizing the one that needs to be done and the one that needs to be done later on. I think the next thing is having the right team. You can't beat that. When you have the right team members that have bought your vision, because as individuals, you have a vision. As an organization, you have a vision and a mission. This is why when you enter into some organizations, banks, and the rest, you begin to see their vision and vision. And it means that whoever it is that's coming on board has to buy into that same vision and mission. And when anyone has feed into your vision and mission, it becomes very easy. You are speaking the same language. I'm not speaking in tongues and you're speaking in English. No, we're all speaking the same way and everybody's flowing. In fact, I've sold some vision to some of my team members, and the way they have turned out project ideas, I'm like, wait, it's me that brought this. I remember bringing out this idea, but you people have taken it to another level because they could see how they can play their own part. They could see where this was going. They could see how it can impact the society, and they were willing to contribute their own quota. So those team members with the right skill sets, with the right values, your values must align with your team members. If you know that you don't have any team member that has the same value, please, I would advise you to just separate now. It's time for separation, not no hard feelings, but just separate, because you don't need anybody that will drag you on this journey. With all of these things I'm saying, if I have team members that are not supportive, that are not don't have the right skill set, that do not fit into my vision, I know it will be very tough for me. Now, I'm not saying I've had an easy ride, but I'm just saying that with this kind of people, right, with me, I know that it's easy to keep on the journey to what it is I'm trying to achieve. I've mentioned vision, I've mentioned mission, I've mentioned team members, I've mentioned time management, and of course, passion. Passion itself is also one of the driving factors. So I'm not doing one thing because Mrs. A is doing the thing. I don't move that way. I know they move that way. I'm not doing it because I saw one of my friends is doing this project. Let me to go and do my own. I don't move that way. So I'm always inspired by my ideas. I've always done some evaluation of why I want to do that, because I understand my why. I understand who I am doing it for. Understand how this impacts. It not just impact them. It's always a win-win situation. It may not be monetary, but it's always a win-win situation, not just for them, but for myself. Because I know, just like the way you called me for this interview, I know that my results are visible, right? So it's not cloud chasing. And I can always speak on it because I know I did it. I know I worked, I rolled my sleeves, and I put my all in it, right? So when I'm telling this story to people, and I'm telling this story to organizations that I want them to join me in this kind of advocacy and all of those things, it's very clear that I am passionate about it. I didn't just borrow the idea from somewhere because I want funding or anything. But you can tell that I'm willing to even step into the danger zone to make sure that this thing gets done. I think all of the things I've mentioned are the things that have guided me and helped me in all of my advocacy work. And please, I would like to say this in public. I take time to rest. I get this question, you rest? I rest, oh, I sleep. This is one of my hobbies. I sleep, I rest. You have to find time to rest too.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have, if you're not healthy, you can't do anything.
True.
And life will go on, right? Life will go on without you. So please prioritize your health. I learned that one the hard way, which is why I'm trying to evangelize it now. Prioritize your health when you can, rest when you can, and then after rest, of course, continue doing the work.
Continue again. Thank you so much. Very great tips. Know your who, your what, your why. Let your passion, your team be on point, and most importantly, rest. I think I can also teach about resting because I also learned the hard way how to rest. And the truth is, like you said, if you are tired or you are sick, everyone will continue doing their own work. It's your own that would suffer. So you have to put in time to be able to rest. Thank you so much. So I have one more question for you before I let you go, or two more questions before I let you go. So tell us, where do you see your organization in the next, let's say, 5 years? What are your dreams or your aspirations for your organization next 5 years?
So in the next 5 years, I want my organization, or rather, I see my organization as a global organization. So if you notice from the journey that I shared with you about the Youth Evolve, which is from 2019 to this very moment, we've evolved. We've evolved in our work, we've evolved in our implementation style, we've evolved in our beneficiaries, the projects we churn out. And I know definitely we are going to evolve to not just being a national organization, but also a global organization. And so being a global organization is not just wishful thinking, right? So one of the things that we want to do is to create an office, like a physical space, a hub where people can come in, young people can come in and get those necessary services. We also want to create a particular agency and arm for those that want to report sexual offenses, like a legal arm, and get some pro bono services and all of those things. And of course, we want to reach a target of 5 million young people in 5 years, empowering them with peace building skills, empowering them with the necessary skills to advocating for the rights of women and girls child, and also being involved in political processes as young people, because young people have the potential. Like we are more than 60% of Nigerian population, even all over the world, and it's not just in numbers. It's because those potentials, when harnessed rightly, can actually do a lot for the society, for Nigeria, and even for the world. There are proofs that shows that our young people are really, really, and what's the word now? But really, we're value driven. Like we have values, we have potentials, and if we're in the right environment, we can do great things. So young people need to be seen as positive change agents, and that's one of the things that drives me. So whatever it is that I'm doing, I always want to not just include young people for the sake of statistics. So when they're counting young people, we say there are 5 young people here. No, we want it to be active. I always insist on active inclusion of young people. This is not tokenism. So actually, they are playing a role. We're not just getting surveys and what they think about it, but they're also doing something about it, even as young people. That is exactly what I want to see Youth Evolve doing, even in 5 years to come.
Wonderful goals and aspirations for the next 5 years. And I hope that you're definitely going to be able to achieve this in a shorter time than 5 years, because I know it's possible. I know it's possible. And And I'm waiting to see all of this being accomplished. So finally, are there any plans or any programs or activities that you would want the support of the public on? So either in donations or volunteers or anything you need, it's time to make your call for people to support you.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity once again. So let me start with Volunteers Connect. Volunteers Connect, like I stated earlier, is an organization that bridges the gap between organizations and volunteers. So here's my call for those that are interested in volunteering. Many people don't know the know-how, and also many people don't have access, which is one thing I also noticed to opportunities. So Volunteers Connect is the place to be. All you have to do is check us out on Instagram, Volunteers Connect. Our email, I'm sure, will be shared later on.
Definitely.
And then you can reach out. Yes, you can reach out to us, and then we'll onboard you. We'll take you through the processes of being a volunteer. My book also is available for sale, 21 answers to the volunteers' questions. So based on all my speaking engagements, both nationally and internationally, I created everybody's questions, and I said, let me answer them. So that when I'm not there, when you read the book, Ruhamah is speaking to you. So the guide. And then, of course, the youth involved. Like I stated earlier, the two things that we are working on this year is our app against misinformation and disinformation, which of course, you see it on our page very soon. And then the second thing is the sexual offense watch observer project. It continues. The next phase, it continues, and you see more of that. With your support, both financially, both physically, materially, whichever one. We're sure that we're going to be able to achieve a lot this year. So please just share the words. When people ask you questions, let them know that Volunteers Connect, I've heard about that. This involved, I've heard about that. There's one young lady, her name is Ruhamah Ifere, and she's doing great things. Thank you very much,
Thank you, Ruhamah. Thank you. So, guys, you have heard it. You can volunteer, you can donate, you can support in cash or in kind, whichever way you want. As usual, her contact details are showing around your screen right now. Also, you can check the description box or go over to our blog to read out the full feature of Ruhamah, and then you'll see right there how you can get in contact with her so that you can do the best that you can do. Also, do not forget to share this video because, like I always say, if you cannot support, there might be someone in your network that is willing to support because the person is interested in the work that she does. So please share, like, drop a comment, let me know what stood out for you, and join us in the next episode of the Humanitarians of Africa series. Ruhamah, thank you so much for being here with me today. I had an amazing discussion with you.
Bye.
Looking forward to doing so.
I had a great time too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Ruhamah. All right, people. See you in the next episode. Toodles.
Bye.